Hi students, today we are starting with topic 4, economic growth and development, foreign exchange market slash or in brackets here we have globalization. Before we look at our content, I want us to look at our heading. And just based on the heading, you should have an understanding of what is to come. By now you should have a good understanding of the definition of economics. It depends on the various theorists, but I personally do enjoy the simple theory of or the simple definition of economics is the study of how to allocate limited resources to unlimited demands. As we know, you cannot satisfy everybody with the resources that we have here on Earth. And demand, on the other hand, is not just to say, I want this, and therefore I have this. It is what you want and can pay for. So you say, I want an apple, and I pay for the apple, and thus there is one apple in demand. Therefore, if we have 2 apples and there's only a demand for 1 apple, there is a surplus. Okay, so there is a surplus of resources. But when we look at economic growth, so the amount of resources, the amount of money in the economy and the development, and we consider this with foreign exchange market, immediately it gives you the idea that the foreign exchange market, when we look at economic growth and development, has an effect on economic growth and development. So what happens in the foreign market and how countries trade with one another is going to indicate how much money either goes in, which is an injection, or goes out, which is a leakage of the economy. Let us dive in. What is international trade? An inter relationship is one that is between yourself and someone else, right? Intra being internal. But nonetheless, that's more of an LO lesson. But when we look at that prefix inter, so that is between one country and another. So international, one nation that has a relationship with another nation. And they are trading. I'm giving you something and you're giving me something in return. We do not barter anymore. So it's not a case of, okay, let me give you potatoes and you give me carrots. You want money coming into that economy. So international trade is the exchange of goods and services and capital across national borders driven by comparative advantage and market demand. Comparative advantage, that is the advantage one has over others in producing a particular good. So let us have a look at the main reasons for international trade. When we look at comparative advantage, countries specialize in producing goods where they have a lower opportunity cost. By now, you should know what opportunity cost is, leading to efficiency gains. So, opportunity cost, if you have forgotten, that is sacrificing one thing or an amount of something in pursuit of another. So, in other words, you are getting the most out of your opportunity. And it is also what is this opportunity to have this product A, costing me in product B. So, if I say we're having a party and we're having 20 people over, let us order 15 pizzas. Oh, but that means that we cannot, if we have 15 pizzas, some people want a sweet treat. We would like to get 5 sweet treats, but we cannot get 5 sweet treats. We actually cannot get any sweet treats if we get 15 pizzas. So, how about we get 10 pizzas and 5 sweet treats? That brings us up to 15, but we're able to balance what it is that we are consuming, what we are demanding. That is opportunity cost in a nutshell. You are losing one alternative in pursuit of another, but you are trying to get the most effective outcome considering what it is you require or what it is you demand. An example that we can look at are countries with lower labor costs, for example. There are many countries in Africa with lower labor costs, and therefore they might then produce certain finished goods and exchange them with third world, with other first world countries or with first world countries. Countries like China, they focus on manufacturing textiles. They have a lower labor cost. Countries like the US, have very advanced technology and they produce airplanes. And so you look at where it is lower in that particular country to produce a particular good. And of course, where the cost is lower, but the quality as high as possible, that is where you are going to meet your greatest efficiency. It also depends on the demand of the other countries. So if the demand, for example, China is known to produce so much, so much, between 31.6% all the way to, I think it's something like 46.7%, depending on the data that you look at. That is how much, that is the percentage of finished goods or manufactured goods that China produces. And the quality ranges. So, depending on the market might want quality for cheaper goods of a lower standard, and China will produce it. And they can also produce excellent goods of incredible standard, and they can produce that too. Of course, that just means the cost is going up. So again, comparative advantage, you are comparing your advantage. Where's the greater advantage in producing this good or service, and who is going to attain the greatest efficiency? Increased market access. Firms can sell to a larger consumer base beyond domestic markets, enhancing profitability. You might find that you've got a skill or you're able to produce something that is niche, but if you look outside of your borders, there is a greater opportunity to sell. And therefore, moving across border gives that advantage of international trade. Access to resources. Some countries lack essential raw materials like oil, rare minerals, and so on. There are quite a ton of them, and they transport them, and that is international trade as well. They'll say, well, we've got the resources, and you have got the ability to turn this primary good into a tertiary good. Let's see how we can make that happen. Or the primary good to a secondary good, and we can work our way from, towards consumer from that point forward. Economies of scale. So you need to understand that different economies, every country is a business essentially. The economy is a business. And so you've got businesses of various sizes. Different economies are scaled differently. Larger production volumes due to international demand reduce per unit cost, making goods cheaper. And so if you have a high demand of a product, we know from grade 10 that if you have a high demand of a product, that means the price of the product, if you're able to supply a higher amount of the product, the price of the product is going to come down. The more the demand, and also depending on how many producers there are in the system, if there are multiple producers, the pricing is going to come down. But if there is a monopoly, such as certain electricity producers in the country, if there is a monopoly, mono meaning one, that means that whoever has the monopoly is able to dictate the pricing. Let us continue. Consumer benefits, trades increases product variety, quality, and affordability, of course, because if you go to a store, sometimes a garage even, that imports a lot of their products, it allows for the consumer to have a greater variety in the product they're choosing. If you're only choosing orange chips, but now you've got orange chips and yellow chips and green chips and all kinds of chips, it is going to broaden the possibility of purchasing. Technology transfer and innovation. Countries gain access to new technologies and production techniques, boosting productivity. This is a major deal. We've had so many industrial revolutions, starting from the first industrial revolution, which began something like 1830, somewhere in that region, or went on until, and now we are currently in the fourth industrial revolution. But with the introduction of the production line, which is obviously still major in how we produce, we've just built on how technology works in that sphere. The production line has sped up consumer, or has sped up output product output exponentially compared to craftsmanship. So a con to that would be then the lack of craftsmanship in a society, because it is no longer as sought after. People want something now, they want it quickly, they want it to look uniform. And that is also what the Industrial Revolution brought in, is that you've got standardized products. And so with the technological transfer and technology transfer and innovation, you want to keep up with the times. If the economy next to you, the business next to you, is not keeping up with the time, or you're not keeping up with the time next to them, you tend to lag behind. But bringing in and importing goods into your economy, while an initial not injection, while an initial leakage, because now your economy is spending money and putting that money into another economy, you are now introducing the possibility to increase capital gains in your country. Think about a household like an economy. Let's say there are 5 of you in your home. One of you cannot work, you're a minor. This is social welfare. Everyone else in the house has to look after the minor. So everyone else works and they go out of the house to work. And so they inject money into the household. There is an influx of cash because you've got 4 people who are working and 1 person who needs to be taken care of. And the 4 people who are working are looking after the 1 person who needs to be taken care of, which could be indefinitely in the case of perhaps a disability. It might be a case where, okay, well, someone's lost their job, or it could be a case where someone is now starting a business and there is no longer an external influx of income into the household. Instead, there is a leakage of cash from the household because this person now has to purchase capital in the form of machinery or place down capital for rent and so on. And this is now a leakage. But when that business starts making money, it is now injecting money back into the economy. So there's this constant, that is why you've got the circular flow model in economics showing how money flows inward and outward of the economy and from various aspects and sections of the economy as well. Political and economic cooperation. Trade fosters diplomatic relations. A diplomat is someone who mediates relations between one country and another. So they'll say, look, this is not really in our best interest. We do not agree with what you are giving our country. We don't agree with your sanctions. Sanctioning being that we're marginalizing you, we're cutting you out of our relations in this country. And so a diplomat will go in, whether it is in war, whether it is in trade, and they will say, listen, let us negotiate. Let's see how we can make this work. Diplomacy is definitely something interesting to study. I would definitely recommend that you look into it a little further. If economics is something you're interested in, you can always supplement it with diplomacy. Trade fosters diplomatic relations and economic interdependence. I depend on you and you depend on me. And you'll see all around the world that this is common practice. When there are wars, such as current times, and you'll find, okay, this country is not getting involved via a soldier, not directly involved, but they're sanctioning the other country. They're saying, we are not allowing you. We are putting up trade sanctions. In other words, we are not going to trade with you anymore unless you give us the best possible outcome to our ally. We have got an allegiance with this country and we would like you to come to the party. Otherwise, we're not coming to the party to give you what you need. We have got alternatives. Where someone has an alternative and you do not, you find yourself in a very difficult position because you're sort of at their mercy. It is sort of leaning on what happens when there is a monopoly in the economy and the entity that runs the monopoly gets to dictate costing and conditions to trade. Your political and cooperation can reduce conflict. It can heighten. You'll see it. You'll see it if you follow the war news. What happens when a diplomat steps in, or diplomatic relations, they'll speak of diplomatic relations are taking place. It can even happen directly with leaders without intermediaries, but it is frequented with intermediaries. Employment and economic growth. Exported growth creates jobs and improves standards of living. Export-led growth, apologies, creates jobs. Why would export-led growth lead to jobs in your nation? Because there are foreign exchange earnings by selling goods and services overseas. Developing countries can earn valuable foreign currency, which can be used to import essential goods. So the exchange rate, you think of the exchange rate, it is the rate of or the strength of your country's currency against the strength of another country's currency. When you are bringing in foreign currency that is a lot stronger than your currency, this is a big perk. This is a pro to your economy, job creation, because it leads to a larger workforce, increased employment opportunities, particularly in labor intensive sectors. Also, technology transfer, as we've mentioned already. Foreign direct investments, FDI, foreign direct investments. Please remember these acronyms. Foreign direct investment. Trade encourages investment inflows, supporting business expansion to expand to become larger, and infrastructure. Lastly, you have got reducing market fluctuations. That is, diversifying trade partners helps stabilize economies against domestic downturns. In other words, the more the more you have to offer in a business, the better it is for your business. Because if you have a decline in one aspect of the business, you have an incline, or you've got the possibility of stability if you have got a variety of services that you are trading with other countries. If, for example, you've got a business and your business sells only lollipops, that is your thing. That is wonderful, you're doing really well in lollipops, but you see that the pricing of lollipops seem to be too high, but you cannot bring it down too much, otherwise your profit margins will not be large enough. You want to diversify trade, so you bring in bubblegum. Now, when the cost or when the demand for lollipops starts to sink, the pricing of bubblegum is consistent enough that it is allowing it's allowing the trade levels to equate. So in other words, where there is a gap, the other is filling it. This is trading with other countries, finding that you've got multiple partners. Should something go awry with one, you've got the ability to trade with another. Now, I went through this rather quickly, but I want you to take a moment. I want you to read through. I want you to go back, look at all of the citations as well, because these are the researchers and the theorists who have mentioned all of these benefits to international trade. Should you have any questions or queries, please do come to me. I'll be happy to chat to you. If you also have a difference of opinion, come to me. I'll be happy to speak to you. If it is that you find it's going too quickly, you can also slow the recording down. And if you find that you need to go back, you can also do so.